The debate over the Senate's 60-vote threshold shines a light on our broader challenges. There's no need for me to restate my long-standing support for the 60-vote threshold to pass legislation. And there's no need for me to restate its role protecting our country from wild reversals in federal policy.
As you're determining next steps, I mean, frankly, things just seem like they're going pretty poorly right now for the White House. Build Back Better is being blocked, voting rights is being blocked, diplomatic talks with Russia doesn't seem to have brought us back from the brink of war, inflation's at a 40-year high, the virus is setting records for infection. So as we kind of hit this one-year period and a period where everything seems like it's in pretty rough shape, or nearly everything, which is not an invitation, I guess, to list off some other things. I'm wondering, at what point do you take stock and say that things need to change internally, whether it's your outreach toward the Hill, whether it's the leadership within the White House? You seem to be stymied on an incredible number of fronts right now.
And our effort is to do hard things, try hard things, and keep at it. So we just don't see it through the same prism.
So the sense is things are going well, there's no need for change right now.
I think that having worked in a White House before, you do hard things in White Houses. You have every challenge at your feet, laid at your feet, whether it's global or domestically. And we could certainly propose legislation to see if people support bunny rabbits and ice cream, but that wouldn't be very rewarding to the American people. So the president's view is we're going to keep pushing for hard things.
Okay, and when it comes to the lunch that happened today, Senator Sinema, before the president got up there, reiterated that she does not want to change the 60-vote threshold. Senator Manchin just said now in a statement that he does not want to change that. Has the president accepted that he cannot sway them when it comes to changing the filibuster and creating an exception?
I think we're going to keep fighting till the votes are had.
But they have said today that they are not changing their positions, despite an appeal directly from the president.
And the president spoke to this after.
What is the plan to get this done?
First of all, you all ask questions about complicated subjects like, can you get this done? I hope we can get this done. The honest-to-God answer is, I don't know whether we can get this done.
What was his response to seeing Senator Sinema come out just a few minutes before he got up there, which she knew what he was coming to talk about, and say that she did not support it?
I think the president was most focused on speaking directly to the caucus, not on her comments. Go ahead.
So what is the president's, I guess the administration's backup plan when it comes to voting rights and getting legislation passed? Is there a backup plan?
As you heard the president say when he came out of the caucus meeting, we're going to keep at it. We're going to stay at it. The president's...
But what does that mean, I guess, is what people would
That
like
means,
to know.
Caitlin, that any people...
If we miss the first time, we can come back and try it a second time. We miss this time. We miss this time. And the state legislative bodies continue to change the law, not as to who can vote, but who gets to count the vote. Count the vote. Count the vote.
That means sometimes it fails. We don't know what will happen next. That means sometimes there are gaps between when you get to move forward. We're going to have to determine what the next steps are. But in the meantime, the president is going to continue to make calls.
I don't know that we can get it done, but I know one thing. As long as I have a breath in me, as long as I'm in the White House, as long as I'm engaged at all, I'm going to be fighting to change the way these legislatures have moving.
I assume, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, that in preparation for President Biden's first summit with President Putin, held in Geneva last June, the National Security Team undertook a comprehensive review of the official documentary record of all the interactions that President Trump had with President Putin. You may recall during the Trump presidency we saw reporting to the effect that Mr. Trump and or his aides took some steps to prevent the maintenance of a full record of those interactions. Without asking you to disclose any classified information, can you assure us on 2 points? Number one, did your review uncover any evidence of any effort at any point along the way in the creation and storage of those records to tamper with that process? And number two, did your review uncover any evidence of any impropriety of any kind or severity on the part of President Trump in his interactions with President Putin?
On that question, I've got nothing for you.
Website. Why is it middle of January right now when a million Americans are testing positive for COVID a day, roughly. Why is the president taking these steps now? Why didn't he take these 3 months ago?
Well, let me first say that what we've been working to implement is building on the steps we've taken over the last 6 months and more, and make sure that capacity and we're meeting the unprecedented demand for tests.
But these are steps that the president's taking now because there's an unmet need. Presumably, he could have done the exact same thing 3 months ago when maybe it would be in effect now when the need is obviously greater than the system has capacity to deliver on.
Well, I would say, Zeke, that again, because of the steps we've taken, we're able to, there's 300 million tests that are happening in this country every single month. I would also note that in recent polls, despite some of the conversations we have in here, it's less than 10% of the American public that can't find a test.
You mentioned earlier in the briefing that less than 10% of the population is now having trouble finding a test. Can you kind of...
There was a recent poll. I'm happy to tweet it after the briefing if you'd like, to make it available to all of you. I think it was a YouGov poll.
We still see, we know how much you love anecdotal data, but people talking about the long waits, people talking about CVS, et cetera, et cetera. The president made it a point to say testing has gotten so much better today, but that would be pretty stark if it's now 1 in 10 Americans claiming that they're out.
Well, I said a recent poll, which I think is just important to note.
Has the president ever reached out to Democratic states, states like New York that don't have early in-person voting, or New Jersey or Delaware that have some different laws that exist, maybe down south, and called and encouraged them to loosen their voting laws to bring them in line with some of the restrictions he's objecting to being rolled back right now?
Well, the DNC typically does a lot of the outreach on election implementation, but I don't think it's a secret where the president stands. And so
I have a question about a video that Iran's Supreme Leader posted on his website that appears to show a robot conducting a drone strike, killing the former president at his Mar-a-Lago golf club. Is the intelligence community assessing this threat and working with former President Trump to offer protection of any kind?
I'm not going to speak to the work of our intelligence community. Obviously, the kind of rhetoric or video from the Supreme Leader is something that we've seen, offensive rhetoric and behavior in the past. But I'm not going to speak to more specifics of internal discussions.
But are you aware of the video?
I don't have any more details on it.
The president, when he spoke to reporters after the Senate lunch today, he spoke about the voting rights push in the past tense. He said, "We missed this time." What then is the political value in moving forward with these show votes, given that the president effectively has acknowledged that this process has ended and risks potentially shining a light on Democratic divisions?
Well, I think you all can count who's for and against each vote, whether it's changes to the Senate rules or supporting these voting bills themselves. And I think it's very people publicly know where senators stand at this point in time. We will leave it to, and we'll work in lockstep with him, Leader Schumer, to determine what the next steps are here. And I know he's spoken a bit to that.
But on the president's first anniversary in office, what does he regard as his single most important achievement? And does he acknowledge that any mistakes have been made? And if so, what's the biggest mistake?
Well, I would say first that the president is very proud of the progress we have done to cut the childhood poverty by 40%. Go on from there, fighting to take steps on climate in a historic manner that has been more than any administration in the past. In terms of what we look back, I'm not going to speculate on that from here. I will let the president speak to that the next time you all see him.
Did he underestimate Donald Trump's continued grip on the Republican Party and how difficult that would make it to work across the aisle and unite the nation?
I will tell you that hearing Kevin McCarthy talk today, for an example, and seeing what he said on January 21st last year is a pretty stark reminder of how much sway the former president has over members of his party. I think that's disappointing for everybody, not just people who work here. Go ahead.
The president was in the Senate for 36 years.
Yeah.
We're at a point where his legislative agenda on Build Back Better and the Voting Rights Act has hit major roadblocks. Is there some introspection that his approach to the Senate is not working, and are there changes that he's making to his approach to the Senate, given his experience there.
Well, I would also point to his experience leading him to stay focused and committed to the bipartisan infrastructure bill, something that many said could never happen.
Given that he's ending his first year underwater in the polls, more Americans disapprove of his job in office than approve of his job in office. What is he planning to do differently in his approach to the job in the second year that shows that he's listening to that disapproval?
So I would say it's a continuation of the fights that he built a great deal of a base for over the course of the last year.
The president doesn't think that the disapproval rates are a reflection of the way he's approached the job.
Again, I would point you to what most data shows you, which is a frustration about COVID and prices, and he believes